So I got quite a few comments from friends who told me that they want to hear a bit more from people who are not members of the PA network. And who am I to say no to people who are my potential clients? Okay, so I started, as I always do, strolling on the streets of LinkedIn to see who I can find. And I have quite a few people that I follow, especially when they have content that's related to executive assistants. And then I decided one day to just try and start sending out messages. And quite a few have agreed, quite a few have um, picked interview dates. So I'm going to be talking to a number of them. So there will be quite a number of this type of podcasts. Now, Anu, who during our interview I came to discover is my name twin, said something that I really loved on LinkedIn. And it was about superpowers and executive assistants and their superpowers. If you remember my interview with Tatiana, she talked about what is somebody's superpower, and that should be your brand. And this is becoming a theme. So if you are listening to this and you're an executive assistant and you're not yet focusing on what is your superpower, then you're missing out on something that is quite important in your career growth and in your self-worth and in everything that you're doing. So Anu is a coach, and she specializes in communication, helping you use your words and your voice in a way that it will empower you and help you to grow as an assistant. Listen, anything that can help assistants, even people who are not assistants can benefit from it. But of course, on this channel, we focus on making sure that assistants and support staff are doing well. I have talked really fast for this video. But anyway, I also have a cold, so if my voice sounds weird, that's the reason. I actually thought about canceling, but then I was like, nah, I will just get it done because my next few weeks are quite hectic. All right, so enjoy having to watch this. Start. So, hi Anu. This is Anu who is joining us today, and she is going to be talking to us about something that we all know I'm very passionate about: coaching, mentorship. I believe that this is all things that every assistant needs to be surrounded by coaches and mentors. So, Anu, tell me about what inspired you? Tell me about you first, and then what inspired you to focus on empowering assistants through coaching?
Well, fun fact first, Mercy. I met an executive assistant from Nigeria last week, and she mentioned that there is a tiny little native language in Nigeria called Yoruba. And
Mhm.
anu with a long A means mercy in their language. So we're kind of
We're
like next.
twins.
I think that is kind of like, wow, maybe this conversation was meant to happen.
It was.
Yeah, I was kind of blown away by that. But yes, thank you. So, as you said, I'm based in Finland, the lonely wolf of the north. And I am a communication coach, and especially on conscious communication coach, meaning that how can you be influential without being dominating or manipulating? So that's kind of in essence the difference. And yeah, so my background is so my passion or interest are in human-centric design and psychology and the science of communication, how to make the human-to-human interface working, regardless what machinery or AI or Zooms or what is in between. How do we make the interaction, the connection? How do we tap into the connection that I believe that we all have? So that's kind of my passion and yeah. Why executive assistants? That's a good question. I get to ask that a lot. And I want to support people who lead with their hearts.
Mhm.
And because communication is a means to an end, a bit like money or something else. And it's always up to our own intentions how we use that. And I just wanted to give these Jedi level superpowers to those who are looking beyond their own personal gain.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, and assistants, I think, are often these people. They are quietly influencing the outcomes. They are carrying the emotional loads and shaping the culture around them. And I'm truly falling in love with that profession and these extraordinary women. And I think that's kind of the other angle to it is that even though we are in Finland, especially in blessed situation where the gender gap is sort of going smaller, but the truth is that women and men are not yet fully equal.
Hmm.
And therefore I'm sort of my as a woman myself, I feel that intrinsic desire to empower women not to become men in miniskirts, and with that I mean with a playful way of not
Yeah.
using power or tapping into that masculine ways, that your feminine energy, your empathy and all of those skills that often are labeled as soft doesn't necessarily need to be soft, and those
Yeah.
can be, and they are our superpowers if we just own them. So that's why I think executive assistants.
I love that you have mentioned superpowers quite a few times. So recently, when I was talking to people about my book, one of the questions that the person who was helping me with branding asked me was, when you're an assistant, you've been an assistant for 15 years, what's your superpower? And I said, I don't know. I don't need a superpower. I'm an assistant. And then she told me, no, 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 no. Everybody has a superpower and you need to know your superpower. So I went around asking people. I thought I knew what my superpower was, but it was amazing how so many different people came back with the same thing that was not even on the list of the five things that I thought I was my superpower. And I always thought that empathy, which is apparently my superpower, most people, I've always thought of it as a weakness. I always looked at it and said, "No, this is my weakness." Whenever they ask me, what's your weakness? I'm empathetic, so I spend too much time worrying about that. But turns out that's the good thing.
And why am I laughing is because I think you put your finger where it hurts, is that in my experience with everything I work with, our superpowers is the best quality in us is always the worst quality.
Yeah.
Always the same. You take someone who's super empathic and kind and put everybody first,
Yeah.
meaning that they're not respecting themselves. They are walked over. They are not respecting themselves. You choose
Exactly.
someone like me who's super spontaneous and my creativity is off the chart, and that spontaneity becomes a bit sort of reckless behavior sometimes. I might buy a couch from the flea market that just looks gorgeous. I bring it home and it's uncomfortable to
That's
sit
a good
on.
idea.
So it kind of it is the both, and I think it's just to the awareness that when we know, as you said, it all about knowing your superpowers
Yeah.
and knowing that when you combine certain superpowers, it becomes a massive diamond, and you put certain superpowers together and becomes a Molotov's cocktail that doesn't
Yes.
serve you one bit. It becomes very destructive. So it's kind of like it's I'm mapping. I'm never telling people that, okay, you should use these superpowers, how you should do them. It's just giving your map and say like, okay, this is what I see. How do you relate to this?
So when we talk about superpowers,
Yeah.
like I said, mine turns out it's empathy. I'm still absorbing that because when people ask me about superpower, I was like, oh, my organization skills. And they're like, nah, that's not what we think about the one when we think about you. So can you give an example of some two, three characteristics that might be considered superpowers by assistants?
Oh, definitely. And when I talk about superpowers, I mean these skills that assistants or we as human beings we're using every day. And we don't often realize how extraordinary they are.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing. And there are things like emotional intelligence. It might be like how to read the micro cues in the room, how to anticipate someone's needs, or how to check your assumptions,
Mm.
or how to create a psychological safe environment, or calming the chaos, or or strategic planning and these sort of things that and the issue is that when we rarely name these skills,
Yeah.
and that means that if we don't name them, we're often not able to use them intentionally.
Hmm.
And once we see that what we already do, what we do brilliantly, we also find some of those untapped superpowers that we have, but we haven't, which are like latent, we're not using them.
Yeah.
And then the whole I'm just doing this, I'm just helping turns into I am a strategic partner,
Yeah.
because then you name it differently.
Yeah.
And those are just examples.
That is, I think that's great because quite a few people think of these things as that's just me. Because when you ask me, that's what I would say. Oh, it's just me doing my job. And I hate
Exactly.
that word just because it
Yeah.
minimizes things. And you have all these assistants walking around saying, just the assistant. You are not just the assistant, you are the assistant.
Yeah. And then just an example, I was had a conversation with my best friend or longest friend, childhood friend yesterday, and we were talking about work and me sort of being in LinkedIn and reaching out and talking to strangers, and she said that, my God, I don't know how you can do that. I really don't have it in me that's such a superpower that you're so that's like awesome. And I said, well, you know, I could say I'm saying exactly the same thing with you. Like she's is a special needs teacher in the school. And I said, there's no way I don't understand how you can take that every day, the chaos and the
Mm.
children and I love them, but your patience and your resilience with all of that I'm like bowing to you that how do you do that? It's just different skill sets in a different context and we all have them.
Yeah. So the reason why many assistants struggle with seeing themselves as leaders or even
Mm,
as strategic partners to their bosses is
mhm.
mostly because
Yeah.
of this, right? They don't see their superpowers, so they believe that their role is limited and they go with the just an assistant mentality. And I think that's one of your specialties to help them to think differently. So, how can coaching help somebody to shift their mindset from
Mm.
I am just a support staff to I am a strategic partner and have the confidence to speak up and ask for changes or things like that?
Thank you for the question. Before we go to the like it's and it's not an answer per se, it's my
Yes.
perspective to the topic for sure.
Yeah.
Um, uh, let's start unpacking the word leader because I think it's quite loaded in a modern work culture, and I think that might be one of the key issues that the semantically what is the meaning we give to the word leader.
Yeah.
And in origin in the Old English, it means to guide, to show the way, to and in many it means about it in many languages it means the same. It's about orientation. It's not about domination.
Yeah.
And in that sense, in the modern culture, it paints often leader as something that is hierarchical. It's something who is decisive. It's something that is like high ranking and that semantic point of view doesn't always resonate, or it doesn't
Mm.
often resonate with executive assistants, especially who wants to lead through the calm, through the connection and the consistency and the empathy.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the first job I have is to sort of help them to see the shape the me what leading means to them,
Hmm.
not what it means maybe to the society, but
Society.
what does it mean for me? And from then it helps them to sort of shape how they are giving the direction, how are they leading the way, the people that are on their network at work, whether it's one executive, whether it's a leadership team or board or who not, whatnot. And then it becomes like it becomes a service. It doesn't mean like I'm gonna take you, just pull you over somewhere without you wanting. It's kind of like you do that, and then the objective of becoming a leader
Mm.
becomes something that they actually are not resisting anymore. So that's the first step. And then it is about, as said, recognizing and naming their strengths and building these sort of tools and techniques and new mental models that start shifting their behavior to that direction, which is then absolutely aligned on who they are and how they want to be.
Yeah.
So it's not about changing them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about their personality. I
Yeah.
don't work with personalities. It's always about, if this your objective,
Yeah.
how you can change your
How to get
behavior
there.
to reach there, to reach
Mm.
that. And that's it. And basically it's about and a lot of people are thinking, oh my God, coaching, is it going to be, well, we're going to look at my weaknesses, and actually not. It's all based on the superpowers. It's about because you are already leading. Executive assistants are already leading,
Mm.
and now it's just to make it more intentional and making it about owning what they already do, but doing with clarity, with more precise language, and especially with intention.
So my book is called The Silent Backbone, and part of the reason why I wrote it as the silent backbone was because I feel like I know that executive assistants are the backbone of most of these companies, and yet they don't feel like it. And most of the time, it has to do with the idea of leadership. Until very recently, I
Mm,
always thought that if I was to ever become a leader, I would need a lot of training.
mm,
So I went out and got an MBA because I'm that kind of person. When I don't understand something, I read about it.
mm.
So I went out and did an MBA in leadership.
Wow,
And when I
congratulations.
did that, thank you. When I did that, I realized that I am already leading. It's just not in my job description, but I'm actually, all the things in my job description are I am the expert at everything that I am doing. So,
Mm,
it kind of really helped with my self-esteem quite a bit
mhm,
because
mm.
I work in a scientific organization, and when you're working with everybody who's
Yeah.
a PhD holder, you kind of tend to feel a certain kind of way. But it really helps when you look at it and you start, like you said, society has its definition of leader.
Mm,
But then when you look deep into it, you are an expert in your field. So anyway, so my passion is always the mental health of people. Now, it's
yeah.
all well and good when somebody comes for coaching and you empower them and they feel, okay, now I need to do this. And then the problem is assistants will go back and start implementing all this. And of course, the bosses will take advantage because you're adding all this to yourself, but you are not getting a promotion.
Mm,
So, when you're coaching them, do you also teach them about boundaries? Because that is the one thing I worry
yeah.
about with assistants.
Mm,
Boundaries becomes an issue.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it is a topic that we go through with every single assistant, is about boundaries. And it's and it comes, I mean, what I've noticed with executive assistants, that, as you said, the empathy, I would say 99.9%, unless I would say 100%, the empathy is their superpower.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what sort of whiskers or tentacles you have, that you sense from your skin and from the energy of the
Yeah.
people when they come in. And it is something that has been developed over decades and years of, it becomes this sort of virtuous cycle that it's in heightened that superpower. And that's,
Yes.
of course, and for someone who's in arts, or someone who is somewhere else, they have their different superpowers that has
Yes.
developed. But with executive systems, it's about understanding people.
Mhm.
And and then then the whole idea here is that then it becomes like a second habit, second nature. Like they start identifying with that
Yeah.
I am good. assistant when I say yes to everything when I go. And then they have to relearn that that it's not about diminishing or making the empathy muscle smaller.
Yeah.
It's about growing the other foot as strong,
Yeah.
which is the philautic. What Greek eight types of love is one of is the philautia of the self-compassion. So
Hmm.
empathy and self-compassion, that you need to they need to build the other one as strong.
Yeah.
So they're not like walking like with one foot like
Uh-huh.
wobbling like this. It's
They need
about having two
balance.
strong legs that you can run like in a matrix.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
so
that is
that's
the
the idea.
hardest part of it. I feel like in my position as an assistant, sometimes I feel like I need to say no to things. And because I know I'm at my capacity, but then every time I want to say no, I'm getting better at this, but anytime I wanted to say no, my first thing is, oh, but that person already has other jobs. So now this is one more thing that they will have to do. But then
Mm.
I also have another job, and this is also one more thing that I will have to do. But it comes naturally, I think, for us to just say, okay, fine, it will take me 10 minutes. It will probably take him 30 minutes to do. Let me just do it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that is the thing of breaking the habits.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that you one should always say no and when to say no. I'm just always inviting the person to pause
yeah,
and look at the question or the task at hand and say, is this where I need or want to say yes? Or do I feel that I have to say yes? And whatever they choose, it's fine. It
yeah,
is their choice. But that they do that consciously, and therefore then there's not then there's less of that beating up, and there's a good reason why you say yes, and there's a good reason why you say no, and expressing that also your intention and the way of your thinking to the other one. And
yeah,
sometimes saying no or setting boundaries, it doesn't have to be like no,
yeah,
but you can do that very kindly and respectfully. It also builds trust.
yes.
Saying always yes doesn't necessarily add that trust. It might be like taking more that you're taking for granted. But the
Mm,
fact that you sometimes do say consciously and for the good reason you say no, you
yeah,
also empower people that they I mean, let's use an example. My ex-mother-in-law is one of these people who is not able to say no. And when I realized that they're not, she's not able to say no, for example, like, would you take care of the children when the children were small? And then when I picked the children up, she was always exhausted, and 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 excuse my English, complaining about it. That,
mm,
oh my God, I was so tired and it was so long and I love them, but I'm all exhausted, which meant that I did not want to ask her to babysit anymore because
mm,
she would always say yes. And if she had been able to respect herself and say no occasionally, then
yes,
I would not have been hesitant. And after a while, I did not ask her to babysit anymore, which
yeah,
meant that she didn't get the opportunities to spend time with the grandchildren.
mm,
And it became a negative thing for all of us, for the
yeah,
children, for her, and for me.
yeah,
And I always make pinky promise with people I care about that trust me, that you can ask me anything. You can ask and
mm,
guarantee that I will say no if I want to,
yeah,
and then you can receive my yes. But it also means that the other person has to be able to receive the no as well.
yeah.
So
Which I
it's a
think in
two-way
some
street.
contexts can be hard, especially for cultural reasons.
Mm.
Because I mean, I'm lucky I live and work in Geneva, but I have friends who are assistants in Kenya, and saying no is not
Yeah.
an option. So I think when you are in a position where you're able to actually say no, you should agree to say, you should be able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, to wind up, what is the message of hope that you could share with
Mm.
assistants who feel stuck or undervalued? And what would you tell them about discovering their purpose?
Mm. Yeah. Maybe the one thing what I would like to say to people is that when you start seeing yourself the way others may see you as well, or
Yeah,
may see you capable, intuitive, strategic, everything starts to shift. I mean, your voice matters.
yeah,
your boundaries matters and your growth matters.
Hmm.
And you don't need to become someone else. I'm inviting you to become more you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm,
People just need to be themselves.
yeah.
Anyway, is
Mm.
there anything else you want to say before I finish? We're good.
Mm, I think we're good.